I remember sitting in my 7th grade math class. I pulled out my algebra book to begin my work. But before I even had a chance to write down my name, I could hear students from the halls yelling, "Walk out," over and over and over again. My fellow classmates stood up and ran to the halls, and I could hear students from other classrooms doing the same thing. I vividly remember my friend Sophia yelling, "Karina, come on! Karina, let's go!" But I didn't move. Frustrated by my inaction, Sophia left. I looked around the classroom, and I was the only student still in class. Hi, Garrett. But I didn't move. My schoolmates had walked out to join a 500,000-person immigration protest in downtown LA. 11 and 12-year-olds had left school, traveled 2 hours via public transportation to protest the deportation they and their families could be facing. But I sat in class, alone. I didn't join them because at that moment, I really had no idea what was going on. My parents had made a large effort to shelter me from these events. They did this because they didn't want their daughter to become an activist. Yeah. You see, when my parents were younger, their attempts to preserve their land from logging had failed. They learned from a young age that the efforts of the everyday person against governments and corporations really couldn't do anything. So why bother? They learned from a young age that activists, especially indigenous ones, were constantly killed, just like their friends were. My parents tried to shelter me from the world of activism because of their undealt with trauma. Trauma that I thought was unique to them and their experience. 6 years after I sat alone in a classroom, I sat with my mother's childhood friend. She said to me, "The pain I feel from losing our land is deeper and more hurtful than anything that could ever bleed." At that moment, I realized that my parents' trauma was collectively faced by our community. Collective trauma is defined as trauma that happens to large groups of individuals. Collective trauma is also present within our movements and our culture, and it's growing. As news of tragic shootings and terrorist attacks dominate our media in succession with no time to process, fear and anxiety permeate our minds. This isn't simply a bitter political season. Rather, it's an extraordinary time in human history that demands that we respond in ways that enhance life. So I decided to become an activist. An overly excited 18-year-old, I started organizing at the University of Arizona. But I didn't value the people that I organized with. I was too focused on goals and not at all focused on the people. The volunteers I worked with felt undervalued and overworked. My work fought to protect our resources, but exploited the resources within people. My work fought for sustainability, but it was unsustainable. I had to call into question my methods of organizing. I thought of organizing as simply being able to move a group of people. The ends always justify the means. But by only concentrating on moving people to action, I failed to hear my own and their need for connection, wholeness, and meaning. Not for someday after the goal had been gained, but in the very process of gaining it. I chose to redefine what it meant to win. The change I fight for now goes beyond shifting power from one group to another. It creates space for healing. The change I fight for now goes beyond creating action. It creates connection. The change I fight for now goes beyond developing movements. It develops leadership. And that has made all the difference. Thank you.